Are you sure?
Most definitely.
Are you focused?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go. Okay, what's up, Peanut Gallery? Welcome back to the pod.
Welcome back.
You know, it's been... I don't know how long it's been. I lose track of things. But I think that it's been a week for us, and so this might come out later, but whatevs. It really doesn't matter.
Has it only been a week?
I don't know. It's been a
week because we recorded
we had Easter
that Thursday night.
That's what I'm thinking, because I'm trying to get around Easter. So that was great. I mean, our Easter service was really cool. How about y'all's?
It was good.
Yeah?
It was good. Easter morning was good. We had a nice Good Friday service as well.
Cool.
Something I had never really... Well, I guess technically I'd been to one last year, but...
my church doesn't do that. We've been to them, but...
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand why some churches do and some churches don't.
I don't know.
It's just... I don't know. I mean, I've never been to a church that's done that before. So it's just kind of...
It's cool.
It's cool. I like
I'm okay with it. Do you guys do a Sunday night service on Easter?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, we don't.
No, I mean, we don't usually have Sunday night.
Oh, that's my bad.
Normally. I mean, like, we will tomorrow because we're having this, like, revival conference thing. But it's not a normal... It's maybe once a quarter or so.
No, it's like classes for us. Like, we'll have a couple weeks where we'll do it, and then we'll go off. You know, we'll usually take the summer off. But on Easter or, like, on Mother's Day, we usually always don't have one.
Okay.
Because we say, hey, guys, go be with your families. You know, spend time with them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I like that.
To be honest, I'm a big fan of not having church services on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
Pretty big fan.
Yeah.
Because you can just...
I think I agree. I wonder about Wednesday night sometimes. But that's also because I'm, like, working all day, and I'm hitting that, and, you know, my church looks at me and says, hey, do this, 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 and this. And it's like, man, I'm drained.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy Wednesday nights.
I do too, but I don't know.
They're harder. I don't think there's
really
any
hard.
question. I think it's definitely harder than the Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Sunday morning you wake up and, like, that is the objective of the day, pretty much. And then, but Wednesday, it's at the end of everything. So it's harder for sure. I
don't know. I think it'll be easier when I am not working on schoolwork all day.
Well, because
have,
that's
like,
the
homework
other thing.
after.
For most folks, it's okay. I get off of work, and yes, it is more difficult to get to church on Wednesday night, but I'm going there to receive. Right. But if you're doing what we're doing, where it's, you know, we're working all day, and then we're going to pour out, then it's, you know, you're pouring from an empty cup, kind of.
Yeah, it feels that way. A lot of Wednesday nights feel like I'm pouring from an empty cup.
But it won't be that way forever, you know. So it's good. It's good. So
yeah. Okay. So I get to bring the question this week.
I'm nervous about this question. You've been alluding to it.
You really don't have to. It does come from an odd place. Okay. So I'll give you the context and we'll get into it.
Okay.
All right.
I like this.
We're gonna talk about something very specific that we don't really agree with, but then we're gonna translate it into something that we do agree with. So
is this a theology episode?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, This is pretty much a theology episode. So I received an email from a knife company. Okay. I routinely get those, and I have 2 knife companies that I follow that are Christians. Okay, but one of them is Catholic.
Okay.
And, you know, that doesn't mean you're not a Christian, but they believe a little differently than we do. And the video was about his favorite piece of EDC, which was his Rosary.
Sure.
And I said, what? And he said, and the title of the video was, do you have to be Catholic to pray the Rosary? And I just kind of looked at it and I said, I have no idea.
Okay.
Tell me. And so he explains the Rosary to me. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't sound terrible. It was like a 2.5-minute video, very short. And I said, okay, I need to have a better understanding about what the Rosary is. And so I watched a couple more videos. I asked, I'm doing research and all that. I did not talk to a Catholic. I wish that I had, or someone that used to be Catholic. We've got a couple of them in our church. I wish that I had called one of them. But So I'm probably going to butcher this. But essentially, you have the Rosary. It's just a system of praying. And if you're going to pray through the Rosary, it usually takes about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And what it is this. You have the little cross. You start there. You pray about that. There's 3 little beads that are like Hail Marys. And then you have this, the rest of the necklace, which is 5 groups of 10 beads, each one having to do with a specific part of Jesus' ministry. Now, the whole point of praying through the Rosary is to slow down, meditate on Jesus' life and Mary's. And so, they had me here. I was sitting here looking at this like, this is cool. But then I had it more fleshed out, and I realized, okay, so you're actually also praying to Mary. And now what they say is, well, we're not worshiping Mary. We're asking Mary to be our intercessor.
Right.
So it's like, well, that's not it. And so I also did a little bit of research on Mary, because I thought, where does all this come from? Well, it comes from Luke. It comes from Luke 1, and it talks about, the angel shows up, and blah, 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 blah. Let's see. It's verse 28. And having come in, the angel said to her, "Rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women."
Yep.
In King James, it says, "Hail."
Yep.
And so it's like, "Hail, highly favored one." And so they take that's where the Hail Marys come from. And they say, well, this is where God asked Mary to be the Virgin Mother of Jesus. And first off, that didn't make any sense, because he didn't ask. He just said, "Behold, you will conceive in your womb and bring forth a son. He shall be called Jesus." All right. And then we go down a little bit, and in verse 38, Mary says, "Behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be according to your word." Okay, there's no asking here. There was, hey, listen. And truly, Mary, you are a really cool person. You're really good. And so we are going to do the Messiah thing, and it's going to be through your line. And she's like, okay, sounds good. So super cool there. I mean, truly, Mary was a rock star. I really don't want to play that down.
No, she was awesome.
She was great, because an angel shows up, says, you're going to have a baby, and you don't know a man. And she says, okay, I believe the Lord. Great stuff. But what that doesn't mean, and nowhere else does it say, to pray to Mary. Mary is usually, it's very clear that she is subservient to Jesus. I think the only time where they could say, but Mary told Jesus what to do was at the wedding of Cana. And Jesus was being respectful to his mom. And so I don't think that you can say, oh yeah, Mary tells God and Jesus what to do. No. So when we started bringing Mary into the Rosary, back to the Rosary, I said, no, I don't think that works for me. I don't think.
Okay.
Because we shouldn't pray to saints, right?
Okay. So what is your question?
So we're going to get into prayer, because there's a part of the Rosary that I like. And the part of the Rosary that I like is this. It does force us to sit down, meditate on Jesus' ministry, whether or not they have added some things in there. All right. So if you and I went through and prayed verbatim what they want, they've added Mary in there. They've added a few things. But I'm reading through what the different, they call them decades, what the different decades talk about the ministry of Jesus, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. And their goal is to pray 20 minutes a day, essentially, to remember what Jesus did on this earth and what he did for us. I like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, I'm not saying that you and I should go buy rosaries and we should just modify their prayers. But, it is cool because they have a physical thing that reminds them to pray for these specific things and to pray through this specific, through the specific life of Jesus. And it's it's neat to me that's how they do it. I don't know. It's an interesting system. And
okay.
So I wanted your opinion. Like, first off, what do you think of their system? Like, what do you think of that? Is that too... Because...
I think... I don't have a problem with this, with a system. Like, there's not an issue with having a structured, somewhat organized time of prayer. It's fine.
Right.
Like, that's not a problem. Because you have to remember, prayer is a conversation.
Yeah.
You and I have, this is a somewhat structured conversation. It's not a problem to have structured conversations. But it does matter. I think the theology around it does matter, because it will impact your, it'll impact your understanding of how you're talking to God. So, you talked about praying to the saints with Mary, and obviously there's a bunch of others, but Mary is maybe the most prominent one.
Right.
Because every Catholic would pray to Mary, but not every Catholic prays to every saint, right? There's different patron saints, yada yada. As I understand it, I'm not a Catholic, but we have to understand that what they mean by pray is not the same thing we mean by praying. Our word of prayer, as Protestants, as Baptists, more specifically, but I think this would hold largely to Protestants, would be prayer carries the idea of reverence, the idea of divine with it, because we only associate prayer with God.
Right.
So God's the only one you pray to. You don't pray to anyone else.
Right.
Whereas Catholics, I think you were right. You're saying, well, no, it's not this reverence. It's not this worship. Prayer to the saints, as they would say, is more. I've heard it. Basically said, like, you're going to church and asking other people to pray for you too. Is essentially how they view it, if I understand it correctly. Now, where we would then have a disagreement would say, okay, Catholics and Orthodoxy by large is they have an understanding of, they kind of blend our earthly life and our life after death together a little bit. They don't see that divide as sharply.
Yeah.
So they'll say, I can still talk to someone. I hear something back, obviously, but I can ask somebody to do something for me, even though they're dead. A dead saint or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mary would fall into that category.
Yes.
But whereas Protestants view a pretty steep difference, stark difference between life and life after death.
Yeah.
There's not really, that's a divide that's not passable except for in extraordinary cases like Elijah and Moses coming back, Mount of Transfiguration. Cases where God allows them to come back supernaturally for a time. But it's not a regular occurrence, like what just saying, Mary, can you pray for me, type of thing. Not the same. I'm probably getting off on a little bit of a sidetrack here, but that's issue number one, right? That's the whole praying to the saints thing. I don't agree with it.
No.
I think it downplays the relationship you have with God, your Father.
Right.
I think we get a pretty clear theology of prayer in the New Testament, where Paul writes, we can come before the throne saying, Abba, Father. That we don't need, I don't need to come to you first. I don't need to come to Mary first.
No.
You're both rock stars, right?
Sure.
But I don't need you.
Yeah. But
Christ tore the veil. I can go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So
we don't need a mediator. I mean, we have Jesus.
Right. I genuinely, obviously every Christian denomination, or whatever you want to call it, they have a leader of a local assembly. So we would have pastors, elders, deacons. Catholics will have the Pope, cardinals, bishops, archbishops, priests, all the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
I genuinely don't understand where you get the idea of having to have an intercessor in the New Testament, unless you're almost syncretizing between the Old and New Testaments, and viewing them as so continuational that you have to almost operate in the same way that Old Testament Israel did. I think that's a bad theology.
Yeah, that's just so contrary to the practice that we see of the New Testament church.
Yeah. Yep. Even though in the New Testament church, in the very early church, they still went to the temple.
Yes, they did.
They still worshipped at the temple.
Mm-hmm. But they weren't sacrificing.
No, and it's pretty clear. I don't know. I think the priesthood of the believer is pretty clear in the New Testament. And that's a pretty big one. But as it relates to the Rosary, the structure is fine. I think structure can even be good. Fine.
Right.
Good. But it's that blending of praying to Christ and to Mary, where it's like, even if you're saying you're not doing the same thing, I just don't think it's great. Yeah. So maybe we should just start a Protestant Rosary company.
Okay, that's literally what I was just going to say. Based on that,
I think it'd be probably a little disrespectful to do that.
It would be. But what if we, bought our own rosary and
snipped out the
No, we could just replace it with something else, because Jesus did a lot of stuff, and so we could just say, well, instead of that, we'll just say.
Now, to be fair, I've never really looked at the Rosary all that much in detail like you have.
I haven't looked at it a huge amount.
You know a whole lot more than I do about it.
Well, yay for that.
I honestly didn't know it was that long.
I
didn't know it was 25 minutes.
Me neither.
It's crazy.
It's very long, apparently.
But cool. I also didn't know it centered around the life and ministry of Christ. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm an ignorant Protestant, but I think
we all are to some extent.
I think I've got an issue with the theology behind it to begin with, so I never really looked at it. But I mean, for one, I also am with you. I like the physical reminders. I like the systems. I think they're great.
Well, I mean,
there can be dangers there, but I think overall they're good stuff.
Well, I mean, we have a prayer list in our little. I have them in my field notes.
Yep.
I have just people that I want to pray for, and so we say keep a prayer list or something like that, and then some people would say, well, we need to pray like Jesus prayed when his disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray. He says, okay, our Father. So we should. Some people say, well, we should follow that outline.
Also a great outline.
And it's a great outline.
It's good.
So I'm going to counter argument, though. I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm going to say...
Are you calling the Catholic Church the devil? Or
no,
what?
I'm not. I'm going to come at it from what usually a lot of the Protestants will say, which is they'll come at it from the vain repetitions thing. And, there's a lot of... It's easy when I'm sitting there reading off a list. Sometimes I'll zone out and just keep reading. I've quote-unquote prayed for people and don't remember that I did so.
I will say, as it pertains to the vain repetitions, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'd have to go back and read the passage again, but when Jesus says, don't pray like and I think he uses the Pharisees as an example, or don't pray like they do, or whoever he's referring to, the religious elite.
Yeah.
With the vain repetitions, he's saying it's because they are expecting God to hear them because of their many words.
That's good.
Right? I don't think it's a problem to have a list. I think a lot of it has to do with motivation. Again, I mean, this is me just off the top of my head. I'm not looking. I should probably look into that passage more, but I think it comes from the motivation behind your prayer. It's okay. Am I praying because I want to remember? I want to make sure that I bring this person before God.
Yeah.
Or is it I want to see how long I can make my prayer list so I can feel better about my devotions in the morning? I don't know.
Matthew 6:6, and I'll keep reading. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Therefore do not be like them, for your Father knows the things you have need of before you ask him. In this manner therefore pray. And it goes into the Lord's Prayer. Now, the verse 5 does talk about the hypocrites, but actually it's interesting to me. It seems to be that the vain repetition, by the way, that means empty. Vain is empty. So the empty words, it's about the heathen and how the heathen will just quote off prayer. And I don't know, because, I've heard the Lord's Prayer quoted, and it's very empty.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me when that happens. That's definitely not how we're supposed to do it. And so, but I don't think that means that we can't have specific words that we use over and over again.
And I think the key to it is understanding vain means empty.
Yeah.
You can extemporaneously pray empty stuff.
Absolutely, that's good.
Very easily.
Yeah.
And I think you have to come back to, I like the way Tim Keller writes about prayer. And he writes about it's like, it's work. Like, it's not, prayer, oftentimes, there's seasons where it comes very easily, and there's seasons where it comes a breeze in the morning, super easy. But for most of the time, prayer is an intentional setting your mind to these things and bringing them before God, not just marking off a list, I guess. Having the list is fine, but you've got to be. The list is the tool, not the prayer. And I think maybe that's where. I think honestly, the practical thing is to not always pray using a list. I mean, like, go through seasons with a list, but when you find yourself doing it just because you've got a list, maybe take a break. Just do a different way. Pray a different way to make sure you're still coming to God intentionally for who he is, not just for what he can do for you, just to make sure you've got the list or whatever your motivation might be. I guess that's the way I've thought about it. But yeah, I mean, the Rosary is I mean, to be honest, I mean, the Mary stuff aside, right? Yeah. If you got a tool that helps you pray, go for it. If you like me believe that stuff is not the best, then find an alternative. If you really like that idea, find an alternative and use it if it's something that will remind you to pray, that will help you stay focused when you pray, all those sorts of things. I mean, I think those are great. It's just being mindful of the theology and uses behind it.
So what do you use to pray? You have lists? Do you write out your prayers?
It depends. Yeah. Recently I've not been using anything.
Yeah.
I will just pray while I'm walking in the morning. But I also really do enjoy writing out my prayers. But I over time I don't do the same thing.
Yeah.
For long periods of time. I switch it up relatively frequently, just because to be honest, I don't want to get bored. I don't think that it has to be something that you do. I guess I'm afraid of it becoming mechanical. Maybe is the way I should put it. I don't want it to just be. I mean, there's a fine line between making prayer a habit and making prayer a chore. I think often, if you do the same thing the same way, to me, this might change the personalities too. I think that maybe this is just me. I think it can start to feel like a chore if I'm like, oh, I gotta write my page of prayer today. Well, now I've made it into a vain repetition. So,
I agree, and I've started doing that with my devotions too. Is my devotions will be out of a different Bible, or they'll, like right now I'm just doing Proverbs. I was going through the Pentateuch, but I stopped at Deuteronomy, and I just started doing Proverbs because Deuteronomy was heavy.
Yeah.
And I was not looking forward to my devotions in the morning, and I thought, okay, I just need to pause. I'll come back. And so I'm doing Proverbs right now, and I'll study a psalm. The other day I did a little bit of Ecclesiastes with the Proverbs. It was great. But I think that variety really does help. Like right now I'm very systematically going through my list in the morning. But before that, it was very short. I have to be careful because if I switch too fast, I'll stop. And I'll just go into my day without praying. I'll be like, okay, dear God, thank you for this day, thank you for this food, amen, let's go. But like, I don't want that. It's tough, especially when I pray corporately. That's tough for me because I get nervous when I'm up there, and I don't want to sound dumb, but I also really want to talk to Jesus, and I got a lot going through my head at that moment, and so it's kind of tough for me to pray in front of people.
Interesting.
It could be my least favorite thing about being in ministry or going into it, because people are like, "Oh, Jeremy, you pray." I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
But I don't know. I've gotten better at it because I more and more just think, okay, I'm just going to talk to God, and these people are going to be here, and
I think so. Going back to what you said about the variety and how you're reading the Bible, I think too often, and I think in a good way, in our circles, often Bible study.
Yeah.
Go study your Bible.
Yeah.
But, and that's fantastic. I think that we need
more,
a lot of that in the Christian world.
100%.
But in your individual life, I think there's room for just having fun with how you approach your journey of taking in the Word. Like, I don't think you have to just, and I tried to do it this way, and it's horrible. Like, make a list of all the chapters in the Bible. Make sure you get through all those this year, and you study it, and it's like, ugh, it's boring. I'm already in school and work. I don't want my devotions to be work too.
No.
Ugh. I think there's room for, hey, I heard something cool out of Ecclesiastes the other day. I'm going to go check that out.
Definitely, that's what happened.
Have fun with it. I think if you, because here's the thing, the Bible's not a boring book.
It's very much.
You and I make it boring.
Yeah, that's our bad.
You've gotta find a way to get that boring out, and go open your Bible and pull out an atlas and look at a map of the places that are happening just for fun.
Yeah.
Read about the place that it's happening in, and just check it out, and let that be your devotions for the morning. Like, it doesn't. I don't think we have to have this. I think maybe this is the way to put it. I think sometimes we make our personal devotions into an academic chore.
Yeah.
And I think that's horrible.
It's awful.
I think you'll kill your desire for the Word if you do it that way.
Yeah.
There's a place for that, and you should do it. regardless of whether you're a minister or not, you should study the Bible closely and intently. Mm-hmm. But that shouldn't be 100% of your interaction with the Bible. No. I don't think. And maybe, well, and here's the other thing, and we've talked about this recently as well. It's like the Bible's a story. It's not a textbook.
No, it's not.
I think if you start treating it like a textbook, you're gonna get bored because that's not what it was written to be. It's not. You're interacting with the medium in an incorrect way.
Yeah, and I think it. And I don't know it. I've noticed nowadays because I have a Bible, and it's verses what it's broken up with.
Yeah.
And it's every verse is a new line, and I'm looking at this and I'm realizing like this is how we view the Bible a lot. It's a bunch of verses thrown together. It's not. It's one story. And then you can break it up into little stories.
Yep.
And so when we're over here like, sure, I'm going through Proverbs, some of these verses belong all by themselves. But so often you've also got 3 or 4 verses that are clumped together, and you want to read those as one thing. When you read a narrative, you want to read it as one story. Mm-hmm. Imagine, like, I will devour. Give me any fiction book. Give me any story. Frankly, it doesn't even have to be fiction, and I will devour it. I could do that with the Bible, but for some weird reason, I think it's a bunch of individual verses that are there to just...
And the verse structure, obviously, they weren't there in the beginning, but it is a good thing that has been added.
Definitely.
Because throughout history, most people couldn't afford to have 4 Bibles.
Yep.
They couldn't afford to have a Bible that had verses and one that didn't. You know? And if you wanted to have a Bible that was your one-stop shop that you could use for your personal devotions and use at church,
yep,
you had to have verses in it.
And it's
what
great.
It's just turned into, and now every Bible has verses, and it's good. Fine,
well,
whatever.
I'm sorry. I literally am sitting here like Matthew 6:6 says, and we all can go there.
Exactly.
So it's necessary.
It's huge.
But
I think having a Bible, and you and I have talked about this recently, we don't have one, but we want to get one.
Yeah.
Having a Bible without chapters and without verses broken out, unless it's already broken out that way, like the Psalms, for instance. That's a luxury, not a necessity.
No.
I don't think. I mean, yeah. So, wow, we've come a long way from the Rosary, but I mean, we've covered some fun stuff.
I agree.
I don't know. So, what do you feel like your question was I'm not going to say answered because I don't know enough about it to answer it, but explored.
Explore is my favorite word for what we do.
We almost answer nothing.
Yeah, right.
we do go down some rabbit trails.
I think that, I mean, summing a lot of this up, everybody has a different prayer method. But the goal is to talk to our Savior, to talk to God. And if it is in a more structured way, then awesome. If it's, for some people, they just show up, Abba, Father, and it's beautiful. But so is the structure. I think that if an individual says, I have a list and that's how I pray, great. If somebody says, I open to Matthew 6 and I pray the Lord's Prayer, great. Mm. If they have something like a rosary, that they, the individual beads remind you to pray for this and this and this, great. I think that could be a great thing.
So, coming soon to protestantrosary.com.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be making those, but we're going to make them out of like solid steel or whatever. So they're going to be like really heavy and like awesome.
I don't know. I think it would be something worth looking, not making to sell people.
No.
But just making one for your personal life. I think it'd be kind of fun.
It would be kind of fun.
You can define what each bead means for
100%,
yourself.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Someday.
I do think, and to give the Catholics credit, they routinely, and this is what they say that it's for. People pray to grow closer to Jesus, reflect on the gospel in a calm, focused way, ask for guidance, strength, or peace, develop disciplined, contemplative prayer. Those are the things that they say. And just reading them, just straight up,
great.
Those are great things. Like, our prayer shouldn't be empty. And that's the thing. Vain repetitions, it doesn't even have to be a repetition to be empty, like you said. And so I think that me personally, if I prayed the same exact words every day, they would become empty. But I think for a season, this would be really good for me to write out a prayer or to look at the Apostles' Creed. And
we're going creeds now.
Listen,
that could be a whole episode.
We're going to have a whole episode on creeds. I feel very strongly about them. But to pray through something like that, and just to remind myself, like, wow, God is truly beautiful and truly wonderful to me. And so I'm renewing my mind essentially with truth by praying specific truth. So praying through a psalm for a month or whatever, however long it needs to be, I think that that's awesome. So anyway, there we go.
That was good.
Yeah.
Good question. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I did too. So, we got our mugs, and I would say we clink, but mine's made of plastic and rubber, so it won't
not
clink.
Really gonna clink. It's just kind of a sad mush.
It is a mush, but it's really cool because it's like a stress ball, but it's a mug.
I don't know. I think I kind of hate it.
You do you, but I'm kind of liking it today. My first day with it, and I like it.
I'm glad that you enjoy it because it's yours.
Yeah. So, exactly. I'm going to buy you one.
Don't
just
buy
out
me
of spite. Anyway, sign us off.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Catholic, I guess go buy a rosary. If you're not, don't. That was good. That was fun. Until next time. I'll come up with a good question for next. Well, you know what? I guess we won't have a theology episode for a little while. Was this our first theology episode?
It was, but I'm sorry. Peanut Gallery, I really like theology.
Yeah, I know. But I think we go every 5 at a minimum.
Maybe.
I think so. I'm going to put my 50% vote in. He's about to cut me off. So y'all have fun. See you next time. We'll do it again soon.
Okay, bye.